Hello and welcome. My name is Amanda and today I have for you my last bi-monthly TBR for 2019. These are the books I hope to get to in the months of November and December. Basically, my mood for these months are kind of Christmassy related books, some cold weather, kind of snowy, wintry books, as well as more fantasy and historical fiction, which are typically just my go-to anyway. I also want to apologize if you hear a fan and some little tinkling. It's my pellet stove. You'll probably hear that noise a lot in the background of my videos between now to whenever it decides to heat up again. It's cold in the house and I'm not going to turn off the pellet stove while I film because then I have to wait for it to go through its whole cool down cycle and heat up and all that other stuff. So I hope you don't mind, but it is what it is for the next couple of months. So basically, I guess okay. I know what order I'll go in. I'm just gonna go basically in order of what you saw in the thumbnail, removing one book that I'm gonna talk about for December because it's a Christmas-based book. So the first book I have on my stack is Leiria by Garth Nix. This is the second book in the Abortion series by him. I think it was originally a 3-book trilogy, and there are 2 extra books that are side stories, I guess, kind of. I might see if on Scribd maybe I can get Sabriel and give it a reread before I jump into Leiria. Otherwise, I'm just gonna dive into this. I pretty much remember most of, like, at least the big plot points of Sabriel, so I don't really think I need a whole refresher. But basically this book happens a couple years after the events of Sabriel, and we're following a new main character. This series follows necromancers who live in a world where part of the world is magic and the other part is non-magic. There is a magic school or a school setting in the first book. And where we left off, Sabriel was trying to find her father, who was the Abortion. So I'm not entirely sure what the events of this book have in store for us. I know we're gonna hear a little bit more from the shadow demon-y thing called Mogget, and it looks like there's a faithful companion called the Disreputable Dog, so it'll be fun to see what that's all about. But nice little fantasy book that I'd like to jump into during this season. The next book I have is The Essex Serpent by Sarah Perry. My friend Bailey and I were planning to do a blind date with a book gift exchange for each other a couple months, or I think the original plan was for every month this year. This was the only one we got to. She gave me this and I gave her a copy of Wild Beauty by Anna Marie McLemore. So I haven't read this yet, and I've been kind of putting it off until fall because that's what it seemed best time for me. It's part ghost story, part natural history lesson, part romance, and a part feminist parable. So it takes place in London in 1893, and we follow our main character Cora, who departs for the coastal town of Essex after the death of her husband. And then the Essex Serpent is kind of a mystical creature. There's some lore behind it and things like that. So I think it'll be interesting to see what kind of adventures, or maybe not so great adventures, Cora gets up to in this book. It'll be nice to finally give that book a read through, though. The next book I have is Gossip Girl by Cicely von Ziegler. This is the first actual book in the Gossip Girl series. I read the prequel back in maybe August. Just a series I've had on my shelves for ages and ages that I would like to finish finally. And I remember quite a few Gossip Girl books take place during kind of like Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's. So I think maybe this might be one of them. If not, they're super quick reads, so I just would like to get a bit more of this read and hopefully finish off the series. The next book I have is Rebel Spring by Morgan Rhodes. This is the second book in the Fallen Kingdom series. I read up to book 4 previously via audiobook, and at the time when I read it, that was the last book that was published, and 2 more have been published since then. So I want to do a reread of this series and finish off the last 2 books. So this is the next book I need to get into before I let too much more time pass between reading Fallen Kingdom and this, because then I'll just have to do another reread, and I don't want to do that. So I'd really like to get to this sooner rather than later. I also have the last 3 books in the Outlander series, which are all chunky beasts. I've got A Breath of Snow and Ashes, An Echo in the Bone, and Written in My Own Heart's Blood, all by Diana Gabaldon. I'll hold this one up even though it's pretty shiny. I read Outlander last year. It took me forever to get through Dragonfly and Amber last year as well. And then I was making pretty good progress in the series until, I mean, I've been listening to them via audiobook, and the audiobooks are quite long. And I've been participating in a lot of readathons where these didn't fit prompts, and also they're too long for me to be able to finish in a week. So I just haven't found a good time to fit these back into my TBR or my reading, I guess. So my goal is, I think there's 12 series I want to finish in 2019, and these are the last 3 I need to finish in the Outlander series, so I would really like to finish these in the last 2 months. That way I can add more series, I guess, to my list next year. Even though apparently this lady is writing more books in the series. So I'll finish what's published, and then I guess I'll have to jump back into them maybe. I'm not so keen on them as I was hoping I would be, but they're kind of fun for what they are. The next book I have is The Greatcoat by Helen Dunmore. This takes place in the winter of 1952 when a lady named Isabel moves to Yorkshire with her husband, who's a medical doctor. He is on call for long hours, and she finds herself lonely and vulnerable, and I think she also finds an RAF greatcoat hidden in the back of a closet and sleeping under it for warmth. She starts to dream and is soon startled by a knock on the window, and then outside is a young RAF pilot waiting to come in. So I think there's a little bit of a romance that goes in. This book's very short, also has really big writing, so I should be able to get through it just fine on a nice cold winter night coming up soon. And then the last physical book I have that I pulled from my shelves is The Life and Adventures of Santa Claus by L. Frank Baum. This is just a little story, I think, about how Santa Claus came to be. Such like a beloved and known figure for Christmas. I'm not entirely sure, to be honest, but it's just a little short book that I would like to get to prior to Christmas. And then I do have one more book on my Kindle I would like to get to. It's called Snow and Love, which is an anthology, and I know it was the buddy read for the 'Tis the Season-a-thon last year. The one that Heather over at Bookables created and hosted with a couple other people. I didn't get to it at that time, so I would like to just because I own it. But those are my, I think that was 10 books I would like to try to read between the months of November and December, wherever I can fit them in. Definitely gonna prioritize those books that are series, and part of those series I'd like to either finish or get further in for 2019. And we'll see what other books I end up pulling off my shelves and the like. So I would love to know what your reading plans are for the last 2 months of the year, if you know. And if we have planned to read any of the same books, I would love to know that, as well as any readathons you're planning to participate in. Right now I know of 2, possibly 3. I know there's the Next Buzzword Readathon in November. There is the Shop Your Shelves Readathon in December. And I'm not sure if we're doing a Christmas at Hogwarts or some other sort of readathon for the Magical Readathon in November or December. So it'll be fun when G announces that. But anyway, I would just love to chat books with you down in the comments below. So please do leave your thoughts down there. And we'll speak there until my next video. Bye!